Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mustafa. So today, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you an overview of CESS, which is one of the component of our DCNDS project. By the way, you can stop me anytime if you have any questions in the middle of my talk. So let me start with some of the security issues of network services. So there's several types of attacks that we see. One type of attack is DNS attacks. We can subcategorize it into domain hijacking, cross-site scripting. So domain hijacking means user wants to go to a particular website, for example, gmail.com, but someone in the middle can change the DNS, so it will divert it to a different server rather than the original Google server. So these are basically used to steal access information, username, password from the users. So if you do not look into too closely, so there is a danger that you can give information to the wrong system. Cross-site scripting also a similar concept of hijacking. So it uses some kind of script in the server to send data to a remote server, even though you are actually browsing the real website. Okay. So it happens due to if there is a vulnerability in the script that the service is using. Another type of attack is a man-in-the-middle attack. So someone in the middle can try to steal the data. This is more feasible for the network service provider. So they can pose as someone in the middle, then they can try to steal data while data in transmit. This can happen if the SSL is not configured properly. In the morning session, I think we saw an example from the resource person who said they can terminate the SSL connection in the middle so that they can look into the rest of the connection for security monitoring purpose. So that can also be done by the attacker if it is not configured properly. IP spoofing is a widely used attack, especially for DOS attack, denial of service. So this is for, if as an attacker, I will change the IP address so that it is not traced back to me. So basically, the service will be handling spoofed packets or non-existent service requests, so which will overwhelm the whole servers so that legitimate users will not have access to the services. So this is one of the most common attacks even today. So if you see statistics of different types of attack that is going on, DDoS attack is the most common and the most simple attack, but still it is most harmful nowadays. Network sniffing is another type of attack. So this is not active attack, this is kind of passive attack. Sniffing means someone tried to monitor the network. So when he said someone, if it is not legitimate, that means it will be an attacker. So sniffing means if you are sending unencrypted traffic, so they can see the information that you are passing through in the packets, and you can try capture those unencrypted data. So this is most vulnerable in the wireless network. So if you are using Wi-Fi, and if your Wi-Fi is not encrypted, that means that data is very vulnerable. So any wireless user can spoof, can sniff the network in the wireless session. Okay? It is also possible for the wired network. The sniffing is feasible for the network service provider, like network engineers who is configuring the networks or routers, all those things. So these are some of the issues that we see. So one of the solutions that is coming into the domain is called security as a service. It's also called SECaaS. So this is basically a business model. So the idea is we have these vulnerabilities, and can we solve this centrally, right? So that is the basic idea. So we saw in the morning about different type of cloud model. So SECaaS is basically from service security as a service. So this is from software as a service model. So we have SaaS model, software as a service. So this is security software as a service. That's come from SECaaS. So the basic idea is very similar to software as a service. So the idea is we can provide the security services from the cloud without implementing security system in every devices or every system that we use. So I think the idea is we know the advantage of cloud-based services. So by using that particular model, we can also bring in those particular advantages that cloud has into the SECaaS model as well. So that will provide us capital expenditure will be lower. It will have less amount of hardwares, less amount of costs to the end users, but the security will be ensured for all the users. So it will provide internet security to the users, but it can, as I said, different kind of network services or network attacks, it can be handled centrally rather than at the user stations. So if we categorize different types of security services, we can broadly categorize into 6 different types. The first one is identity or access management, or IAM. Then we have intrusion detection and prevention system, or IDP. We have SIEM, security information and event management. Web content filtering is very crucial nowadays. We have email security. Everyone has email systems, and if you are hosting it on your own, it's become critical for security of the organization. Then we also have vulnerability management. So these are broad 6 services that are provided in terms of security. So if you look at a little bit detail what these security services are supposed to do. So for IAM, or Identity or Access Management, it enables a particular organization to control the access of different users or stakeholders. So when I say users, for example, if you are in education institution, there are students, there are teachers, also there are technical engineers that is working to provide support, to configure all those things. But we need to control who can do what, who can access what type of services. So that part of access control and operational level security is basically controlled by the IAM. So there are several use cases. We have to provide SaaS service provisioning, CSP, computer service provisioning for different levels of users, developing developer accounts if you want to provide access to someone who actually use the system for development. They need different types of permissions to use. End user storage, how much storage each user can access, for what type, whether they can upload, whether they can download. So all these things can actually are actually controlled by the IAM. So in terms of practices, these are broad category of what IAM can do: user management, authentication, authorization, and access management, device management. If you are providing devices to the end user, or even if you want to control the devices that user is bringing in, then it falls into the access management or IAM management. And provisioning, monitoring, and auditing of the access, what people are doing, whether they're trying to do something else they're not supposed to do. Credential management, entitlement, compliance. So these are all part of IAM practices. Second level of services that we can talk about is intrusion detection. So this is basically a software or a hardware device that monitors a network. So we're talking about a private organizational network. So it could be broad level in the government level as well. So it will monitor a network or a particular system for malicious activity or policy violations. So malicious activity means you want to check whether some attack is going on. Or it could be you have provided access to somebody and whether he's violating that access, whether he's trying to access a file that he's not supposed to open. Okay? So these are all part of IDP. There are different types of methods for IDP. We can categorize into signature method, signature-based, anomaly-based, and stateful. So signature is very common in security type systems. I think everyone uses in some type of antivirus, right? So antivirus basically is signature-based. What it means, all that viruses, the malwares that coming out, so they have a particular signature, okay? And these are globally synced. So if you look into, so your security software or antivirus software is updated almost every day, right? So what they're doing, they're downloading the signature from the global servers. So what happens when they try to match attacks or viruses, they actually match the signature, whether it matches with any signature in the database, okay? So this is like signature-based, so you have to generate the signature. So you cannot identify any unknown. If it is, even it is a virus, but the signature is not in the system, that means it will bypass the security system, okay? Anomaly-based is a different types of system. This is, so in this case, we have to define what is normal. So this is the normal scenario. For example, you can think of, say, a particular user, he accesses these 1, 2, 3 services. Okay? He has his file access. He uses 1 of 2 cloud services. He sends like 5 or 6 emails every day. So this is the normal scenario. So now if you see he's uploading gigabytes of data to a remote server, he's sending thousands of emails in a single particular day, that will be a deviation from the normal. So this is the basics idea of anomaly. So something that is not normal, that will be anomaly. Even it is possible that this is actually a valid scenario. Okay, but still in anomaly-based system, that will be tagged as an anomaly behavior, and it will be identified by the IDP. Another case is stateful protocol. So a stateful protocol is for a specific scenarios. If you exactly know how the protocol will behave. So if there is a violation of the protocol, so you're supposed to get an acknowledgement from the user, but you did not get it. You get different things. So that means you exactly know he did not follow the protocol. That means the other party could be malicious. So these are 3 basic methods of types for intrusion detection. There are many implementation, many algorithms on how it can be implemented. But there are many examples there as well. So on top of the intrusion detection, there is another term called IDP or IPS, intrusion prevention system. So what it does, it also blocks actively. So detection only monitors, and it can identify. So this is like, actively I'm monitoring, but I cannot do anything. Even if I monitor something, I can maybe notify the administrator, okay? But that's it, he cannot do actively anything. But if you have IPS system, that means it has that intelligence. Based on the information from the IDP, it can do something additional. It can block the attack. It can try to, maybe shut down a system so that it is not further affected by the attack. So there are different types of IPS mechanism as well that can be done. Another important type is SIEM. So this is basically a combination of 2 things. One is security information management, or SIEM, and security event management. So this is related to mostly log files of different systems. So if you think about, we have web servers, we have email servers, we have say DNS servers, application servers residing in different machines, right? If you think about even data centers, there are multiple machines or provisions for different types of services. And every service generates different types of logs or events. Okay? It includes regular information logs. Also, it has critical, warning, error, different types of logs. So what SIEM does, it aggregates this relevant data from different sources. So you have hundreds of servers. So it will aggregate all those things together. And it will identify from the normal. Again, this is like anomaly based. So for example, your web server is supposed to provide, say, 1,000 users per hour. Okay? Suddenly, if you detect there is 5,000, 10,000 requests per hour, there is a huge spike in the users that your server cannot handle. So that could be something anomalous. That could be a DOS attack. Again, this could be, a valid users as well from different scenarios. But the system will identify, and then it will be responsibility of the administrator to check whether this is actually an attack, whether this is actually an anomaly, or this is an regular behavior. So what SIEM will do, as I said, so it will combine the data from different sources, which is not possible manually. You cannot just collect data from hundreds of sources and analyze. So SIEM will do that. So it will collect the data, it will combine it, it will have its own intelligence, and it can take actions. So when I say take action, it could be, alert the administrator. It could, alert the IPS system as well. So different scenarios can happen. So the most important thing is it provides real-time analysis. Real-time means it's not like second-level real-time. Most of the SIEM does, it works in 15 to 30 minutes interval. Because if you do it too frequently, the performance of the system hampers. Another type of web service that we see is web content filtering, which is now a key part in when we provide internet services. So that means we are providing internet to the users. Users will be browsing different websites. They will go to access different services over the internet. So those data are the web content. Okay? So these are the most things that is critical for internet service. So there are two levels of filtering takes place for web content filtering. One is at the application level. So in this case, the filter is based on the URL. So when I say URL, that means they just look at what website you're trying to browse. Is it google.com? Is it facebook.com? Okay, something like this. But if they will not be look at the packet headers or packet contents. On the network level, it will be on the packet level. So in this case, this type of filtering will look in the packet headers first, like source address, destination address, protocols, and some of the system will also look into the packet itself if it is unencrypted, which is called DPI. So the levels of filtering could be different levels. There are adult content filtering. There's filtering for malicious content, whether a content has something malicious built in within. There is also now web content filtering for illegal downloads. So I think most of us know there are many like movies, TV series that you can download from different sources which are shared illegally. So there is more and more, I would say, technology involved to detect this kind of systems whether they can block this illegal content from download within the organizational network. Next part is email security. So this is important if you are providing email services to the users for your organizations. It's not for if you're using like hosted service like Gmail or Microsoft, we do not really need it. So this is mainly for if you are providing the email services, then you need to ensure the users are secure. So mainly we have to need protection from spam, protection from malware, viruses that is attached within the email as a content. There is also need protection against advanced attack like ransomware. Have you heard of ransomware? So this is, just with one click, the whole, all your files will be encrypted. And basically what I think the scam is going on, that you have to pay something in order to unlock the system. And so far, as I know, once you are ransomware, if your file is logged, there is no way to break it because they are using RSA, I think 512 or 1024. So there is no way to break it down unless you have the key. So there is, I think, some of the solution that came up in the market is they can try to detect whether there is some mass encryption going on in the system. So they try to block this, so that maybe after blocking some files, they can they can keep the rest of the files from getting encrypted. So this is mostly comes from email. Also, there is data thefts going through the email. So if your account is affected through the emails, even if you are not aware, that data can be going out of your system to outside. And a common thing that we see is credential theft. So you have a link in the web, in your email. You click on it. You give your username and password to the system. So these kind of attacks are very common and it's still on the rise. It's not diminishing, even though more people are getting used to IT. But due to the increase of the social media, people are coming to the email system, even though they do not really need it. So they are using it for access to Facebook or other social media, right? So they do not really understand why the email system is there, how to use it, how to use it securely. Why not to open different types of emails that everyone sees? So this kind of lackings is there. This is also increasing, right? So with that, the attacks through the emails, that is also increasing day by day. The final type of security service is called vulnerability management. So this is basically a continuous process. This is more like management process. I think in the morning we saw in the lecture that they do it every week, every month. They have different patterns of how to do it. So this is the same thing. You need to check the system. You are never 100% proof. You need to update the system. You need to continuously check whether the security risk is there for the new security threats. So there are 4 high-level processes are there for vulnerability management. One is discovery. So discovery means identifying new attacks or identifying, see what is your weak point in the system. What do you need in terms of hardware, system, software updates? So this is the discovery. Okay. Reporting means you have to report it to the proper channel or proper authority so that you can get new resources if necessary. Prioritization means what to address first, which one is more critical. Based on the critical level, you have to address some topic first rather than later. And the response means actually implement the system for to make it less vulnerable. So this is a continuous process. So these are basically the security services that we can provide. So based on the idea of cloud-based security, so what we are proposing is cloud-enabled security service SaaS. So this is a security as a service. As I said, this is not a new concept. So this is in the same model of cloud-based services. So the idea is we can provide all these services together centrally from the same location. So it will allow a particular provider. When I say provider, it could be an ISP, or it could be the central network of an institution, like a university, college, or it could be even the government service providers. So because it is cloud-based, that means it will be cost-effective because all the services will be centralized. It will require less maintenance because you do not have to maintain every individual devices, and it can replace the on-premise, some of the on-premise appliances as well. So the question that we need to answer is why even SaaS? Why even consider it? Okay. If you look at the users, end users, most of us has antivirus software, right? Most of us has host-based intrusion detection system built in within the antivirus or built in within the OS. Even if you use like host-based firewall, we have application whitelisting built in our browsers. If you use Chrome, if you use Mozilla, so you can block certain sites within your browser, right? We have endpoint encryption like BitLocker that you can encrypt your whole system when it is not in use. We have TPM, Trusted Platform Module. Anyone heard of it, TPM? So TPM is basically a small chip, which is cryptographic processor, and this is tamper resistant, okay? And if you can be surprised, every Dell, Lenovo laptop since 2009 has a TPM built in, okay? And most of the other laptops are also doing that. So the purpose is, so we have our username, password, cryptographic keys. All these things should be stored in this TPM, okay? And there is different mechanisms to identify whether your operating system is intact or whether this is already been compromised by some attackers. Okay, so there are different algorithms that they're trying to do. But the main idea is when you have a cryptographic storage and processor that can be used to store those information that cannot be used by the attackers. Okay, so these are already there. We have mobile device management now. We have sandboxing system so that we can run a system in the sandbox so that it is not actually it will not be able to infect the whole system. So why SECaaS? Why do we even need it? So here's some reality. Even though some of us or most of us has protection, not all devices in the network has protection. So that means once your neighboring device is unprotected, that means he can get affected. And ultimately from that user, the other users in the network will get affected. Okay, so and we cannot ensure 100% protection in every device. It's not simply possible. I'll also talk about this a little bit later on. Protection methods are not regularly updated. Okay, that's the reality. Okay, as I said, this is signature-based mechanism. That means if you are not updating your system, you do not know about the most latest viruses or viruses or malwares, right? That means if your system is not updated, even though you have antivirus, you'll not be able to detect that, right? That means you'll get affected. Now, even if we have protection, none of this method is 100% accurate. So this is, I think, this is a little bit old, but the system is almost same. It's not, even in 2019, it's still very similar. So we have G data, which is 9.52. In our country, Kaspersky is very popular, is 9.2. So that means you have 8 to 10, at almost 50 to 16% chance, 5 to 16% chance of getting infected, even though you have a system installed in your machine. Okay. BIOD is a new paradigm that we see. Bring your own device. I think also in this workshop, everyone has his own laptop, his or her own laptop, right? We have our laptops, we have our smartphones connected to the network, connected to the system. So this makes system more vulnerable because one user with vulnerable system can affect the others through the network. And the growing number of mobile devices, the mobile device is increasing rapidly all over the world, right? So everyone has at least one, some has multiple devices, right? Smartphones, tablets. So this makes the system more challenging. Okay? Some of the big institutions, they even actually, encourage people to bring devices so that they don't have to provide their own. But you also have to, manage those systems so that the network doesn't become vulnerable from these users. So this is, this is the reality. Our environment can get breached. We are most likely to get infected, and the hackers will get control in one or more devices. It doesn't mean it has to control all the devices, but once 5, 10 users are infected, that means it can grow from there. Okay, like the botnets and other malicious activity are there. So what we are saying here, SECaaS can give protection to the whole network. So again, this is not a replacement of existing systems. So this is an additional layer of security at the entrance of your service provider. Okay? So that means all the packets or data that is coming through and going out will be passed through this system. That means even though if you have less protection, it should have better security because it already has one level of protection at the entrance and exit. Okay? So this is the basic idea of SECaaS. So this is the internet. So all the traffic will come through the SECaaS and also go out through the SECaaS. And with this SECaaS, we have multiple entity, and this also can be multiple users connected directly. Okay? So this is the basic idea. So in terms of DCNDS project, DCNDS is cloud, distributed cloud monitoring system for NRANs. So we have 4 NRANs, IDRAN, Preginet, MyRAN, and BDRAN. So SECaaS will actually be implemented at BDRAN as a case study. We do not have fund for other RANs, but we can use that concept and use that the result that we have, we can share it with other NRANs as well for future implementations. So SECaaS will be implemented in BDRAN, and BDRAN has now more than 50 universities connected to their network. And their traffic is, I think, more than around 5 gigabytes per second. So in Buet, we have 1 gigabyte bandwidth from BDRAN. So by setting it up at the BDRAN premise, so we'll be able to provide services to all these institutions, which has, I think, more than 100,000 users in total. Okay, so that is our main objective of this project for this part only. So we'll install or deploy a proof of concept at the BDN cloud. So existing web traffic of BDN will be diverted through this system, and the security policies of BDN will be enforced in this system. And all the inbound and outbound traffic will go through this particular SECaaS network. So this will ensure that security policies are managed and updated for all the participating institutions. So it will not be like it is activated for one user, will not be activated for another. It will not be like that. So it will be activated by default for all the users at the same time. We'll also collect through this project, we'll also collect metadata and web users statistics from different users. As I said, there will be like 100,000 users that uses these internet services through BTRAN. So I think what we are hoping, it will give us important information for further research. So we'll anonymize this data. We'll be capturing the header files, and we'll also share this data with the stakeholders for this project. So for implementation purpose, as I said, we'll deploy it. So we cannot develop it ourselves. As I said, this is huge traffic. So what we want to do, we want to deploy it as a case study using existing technology. So there are different options we have. We have Cisco WSA. There's also InstaSafe security as a service solution. We have a Smoothwall, ForcePoint, and SECaaS. These are some of the top solutions that are available for security services. So in our case, we are using Cisco mainly because BDN already has the hardware for Cisco. So it is more feasible for us to use Cisco software rather than using something else. So let's look at some of the benefits of Cisco WSA. So it has broad threat intelligence. As you know, Cisco has millions of devices all over the world, and that database is huge. So that intelligence will be used in the system by default. So multiple layer of defense, web security, email security, malware protection, advanced threat detection. These are all included in the system. So some of the key features that we found in the Cisco is protection before, during, and after the attack. We'll talk about it a little bit elaborate in the later. We have automated monitoring and analysis of different packets across the networks. We'll see when the compromise attack, how quickly we can determine the scope and how quickly you can bring the operation back to normal. Deployment option is flexible. We can deploy it on an appliance. We can deploy it on routers. We can also deploy it on a virtual machine. So for our case, we are actually using a virtual machine to deploy the system. So traffic analysis will be automated. So all the inbound and outbound traffic will be analyzed. We can scan all the traffic in real time. There is option for dynamic reputation filter and behavior-based analysis. So I'll give a little bit detail on that. First, identification of zero-day attack. So this is, the basic idea is how fast we can detect. Once a malware is there, somebody launched it or somebody published it, how fast can we detect it? That is 0 day. Okay? So the advantage we have here is because they have large amount of devices deployed, so they have more data in their system globally, and they also have collaboration with other service providers. So they collaborate together to identify signature of malwares. So that means every data, the malware data, so these are synced every 5 to 10 minutes. So once it is in the identified in the global market, maybe say in the Europe or in China, it will be updated in the local database as well. So that means even if I'm not attacked by the same thing, I will have the signature of that particular malware within a very short time. Okay? So that gives us some sort of advantage over other systems. So this has some basic features also there: application visibility, enforce policies, what you want to do, what type of service that you want to provision in your system. So these are basic features. So this is one of the key features that this is not only for Cisco. This is actually for any type of security services. So there is a framework called before, during, and after. What you need to do, what we need to do as an administrator, or what we need to do as a system analyst. So if you divide it into 3 categories or 3 stages, so before the attack, our goal is to discover new attacks, discover what is happening all over the world, what type of attacks are there, and also see whether I am as a system administrator or engineer, whether my system is hard enough, whether it can detect those attacks if it happens. Okay, so we have to enforce if it is not there. So you have to enforce new role in the system so that even if that attack is there, you are not affected too much. And hardening the system is a continuous process, as I said. So this is a continuous process. There is never-ending process. So if you do it today, it doesn't mean you don't have to do it tomorrow. You have to do it continuously because the attacks are there, new attacks are there every day. So even if we have protection, still we can be attacked. Okay? And it could be a known attack, it could be an unknown attack. So if it is known attack, I mean, if you are already hardened, should not be a problem because the system will take care of it. But if you are already attacked by an unknown system, unknown malware, so then the responsibility is a little bit different. Then the first priority is how soon I can detect that I'm attacked. Okay, that is the first priority. Okay, can I detect it in 5 minutes? Can I detect it in 5 hours? Or am I detecting it after everything happened? Okay, so the sooner we can detect, that means the better my system is. Okay, so that is the basic idea. So detection is the first step. Then the second step is to block. So if I'm attacked, the first thing I have to do, I have to block it actively so that in the next level it cannot attack my systems. And also defend. Defend means for features. So I not be affected or attacked by the same thing in the future, hardening the system. And after the attack has happened, there's also some responsibility we have. We have to find out what is the scope of this attack, how much damage it has done, how many devices has been infected. So this is, you have to find out. Then you have to contain. Contain means if you have, say, 10 devices infected, you have to contain it within those 10 devices. Okay, you have to, maybe, flash those particular infected machines, or, do something there, and do remedial policies in there. Okay, but main thing is it cannot grow. Okay, if you have undetected system, that means if you do not remediate, they can grow from there. Okay, so this is also very critical part. So in terms of security system, what we cannot assume that my system is completely, proof of any attacks. So what we have to assume will be attacked, and we have infection in our system, but the better what we can do, how fast we can do it, how to minimize the scope of the attack that after it happens. So before the attack, as I said, Cisco has a global threat data. So it has data from firewalls, it has data from IPS, web routers, VPN, and it refreshes on every 3 to 5 minutes globally. So that means we have updated data from global systems. So that gives an edge before the attack happens because we know that new signatures are coming in. So CESS will analyze and categorize the unknown URLs. This is very important using the reputation filters. So this is one of the, I think, common things nowadays. So based on this analysis, what this does, it will create a reputation score and block those falling below a defined security threshold. So as an administrator, you can define a threshold. This is my threshold. And every website that falls below will be inaccessible. Okay? That means you don't have to block by, blocking by using the domain name. Okay? You don't have to use it like for, .ru blogs, .cn blogs. You don't have to do it. So by dynamically generating the filtering mechanism, it will automatically block. Okay? That means you don't have to do it manually. So this is an example of the reputation filters. It has different types of parameters that is used: domain owner, hosting server, time the site was created, type of the site. So this is, I think, in the morning we saw time of the site is very important. So if it is created within 7 days, 14 days, that means it's most likely created for maybe for some unauthorized or malicious activity. Yes, it is also have valid websites that created in the 7 days, but the reputation will grow over time. Once, even though if you are a legitimate user, a reputation will not be very high from the beginning. So it will grow over time. So based on this, as a security policy, we can define whether a particular website, whether this is blocked or allowed through the system. Okay? And there is also option for warning. So you can say to the user, this is probably a malicious site. I think this is, we also see it in I see it in the Chrome. Sometimes if you go to a website, it gives a malicious warning that this is maybe something dangerous is there. So this is the same concept. Based on the URL, they try to see whether this reputation and quantify that. So here is an example of reputation score. So again, there are multiple algorithms out there, different types or different devices. They use it on different levels. So in this example, we have -10 to +10, where the positive value means better, negative means worse. So if you take this example, this is like -9. So IP address controlled by a spam house or known open proxy, generating massive volume of complaints, many spam traps almost guaranteed to be a spam or malicious. Okay? So what it means, if someone tries to, if you are having traffic from these websites or from this IP address, you can directly block it at that there. So all those traffic will never enter to your system. Okay? If you go to the other side, a known enterprise or sender who has undergone third-party certification, no complaints, and a long sending history. So long sending means over the years. So like Fortune 500 companies, so they have long history of maintaining their reputation. They have certification of different types of how they maintain the system. So those actually, that means these are legitimate. You can just bypass those traffic, like Facebook, Gmail. We don't have to block those things. Now this, in the middle area, this is where we have to decide as a admin what we have to do. So for example, this is -1. So maybe dynamic IP, legitimate enterprise, maybe with poor configuration. Okay, but if you go to the positive, some spending history, but newer sites, so we can set the filter at 0, or we can set it negative side, or we can also set it in the positive side. It depends on how you want to configure it. So the more positive the filter is, that means the more website will be blocked. Okay. The problem with that is that sometimes legitimate sites can get blocked, and you may have complaints from the users. Oh, I cannot access this site from my system, right? So there is a compromise that we have to do. What we want to allow, what we don't want to allow. But definitely will not be like less than 3 or 2. So this kind of quantifying things are there to identify newer attacks. So the beauty here is that it's very low, low system capacity is needed to identify the score, and it can instantly at the edge it can block those sites if you want to. Okay, so that means all those will be blocked by default. So this URL filtering, the Cisco, not the Cisco, the global database now has over 50 million block sites. So if you are applying those, if you are not, applying, using those, this kind of system, that means we are vulnerable to these 50 million block sites. Okay, but once you have this type of system installed in your security service, that means we are by default will be safer from these 50 million sites. Okay, so that is in terms of security, it will be a big step. We can also shut down access to the sites, and also this basic URL filtering can be combined with content analysis as well. So content analysis doesn't mean that we have to look into every content, but only for malicious. For example, if you see the reputation is a little bit negative, so this is on the edge whether you can pass it or block it. So those type of traffic can be further passed for content analysis to actually see whether they have malicious content. Okay? So this is the basic idea of content analysis. So based on the content, we can match the category by scoring and scoring. Then we can pass it to further analysis. Also, we have malware defense for multiple signatures running in real time. We have anti-malware inspection, and there's also adaptive scanning. So adaptive scanning, as I said before, so you don't have to do it for every packet. If you see the score is bad for a particular source, you can only do further analysis on those, scan further analysis on those. But we don't have to scan every packet for that. During an attack, so this is before, this is also during the attack. Level 4 traffic monitor, so it scans all traffic, ports and protocols to detect and block the spyware and also stop those. And it can add IP addresses dynamically as the attack happens, and monitor also the movement of the malwares in real time. DLP is also another newer concept. It's called data loss prevention. So what it means that if you have data and your data can be uploaded to remote servers and your original data can be wiped out or can be locked by the ransomware. So this kind of data loss can be configured based on different contexts, what type of service you are provisioned to do, what type of service you are not provisioned to do. So based on these different types of DLP solutions are also there, and this can be integrated into the system. And also cloud access security. We nowadays we use different types of cloud services, right? We have, Google provides different types of services. We have services from, I think, Apple or some other Microsoft. So those kind of services can be provisioned for your user, especially for enterprise environment. What a user can do, what a user cannot do. So those kind of things can be controlled and monitor the users in real time. And we can also detect the intrusion and data leakage if you want to. Sandboxing is another idea during the attack. So if you suspect something, sandboxing means you let it run in a controlled environment and see what it is actually trying to do. So this is another idea of, this is another system of identifying malwares or viruses. So it will run in isolated environment, and you can detect whether this is actually a valid file or valid software or a malware. So this is related to the advanced malware protection. This is already integrated. File reputation analysis. So this is also, most of us, what happens, this is most related to emails. So if you have attachments with our emails, and different kinds of files are there, and it captures fingerprints of every file, and this tries to find these fingerprints are analyzed to a global database, whether this is a malware attachment or whether this is a valid attachment. Okay? So the idea is, if it is a malware, it is most likely sent to millions of users. So it's not like, so when you send an email attachment, valid attachment, it's likely go to 1, 2, or 100 users at most. But when you do it like spamming, it will go to millions of users at the same time or over a day or two. So that's how they try to detect this kind of malware using large amount of file signature analysis. So after the attack, once the attack, if you detect there has been an attack, so what to do next? The first step is, as I said, we have to identify what is the scope of this particular attack. So there is a cognitive analysis. So it means identify and investigate suspicious and malicious web traffic, and also analyze the information generated by the web security solutions. So we have to analyze the logs or from different web servers, email servers, database servers. So do not need additional hardware, because if you have SIEM integrated, we do not need those. And we can zero in on the malicious activity that bypass the security system. So this is very important for localizing which host or which end devices are infected, and then identify those. So CTA and with AMP, it can define what is normal activity and anomalous, and based on that, it can isolate a device for further analysis as well. So this is all we are using, as I said, we are using a Cisco systems, which is already there, and we'll be using that to implement SECaaS. So in terms of research, educational research, so our goals is to provide, first goal that from the project we have, we want to provide another level of security to the institutions that is connected to NRANs, in this particular case for BDRAN. So because we'll be using a state-of-the-art solution for like Cisco, so we'll have the ability to study what they are doing, how they are identifying malware, how they are doing the URL filtering. So we'll have access to all those data from the system, and we can further analyze it. Okay, so we can identify whether they are effective, whether we can improve those things in terms of new security mechanism in the world. We'll also, as I said before, we'll also collect metadata for research, and we are hoping that this data can be used for new algorithms, or for simulation or different protocols, malware detection, botnet detections. We have already have one part for botnet detection only. For data analytics, for user behavior, system behavior, for different regions or different user types. And so the different types of research can be done. And we also have planned to implement a new algorithm for web reputation filters. As I said, the algorithms are there, but we think we can improve that based on geographic locations. So with that, I think that's all I have. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.